Yes, yes, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 27 of It's Not That Deep, Bro. And we're back
Jesus Christ, man.
at it again
Coming in hot.
with the white vans. Jesus, man.
That was a hell of an introduction, Martin. Thank you very much for that.
Don't you worry, mate. Incoming for more.
Indeed. It's episode 27 of It's Not That Deep, bro. Yeah, I'm Ølund. We got Martin.
That's right. That's me.
We're here at 24/7 Studios, and we're just about to select the film of the week.
Film of the week. By the way, we are trying a new system out. We are.
This is week 2 of this new system.
This is week 2 of this new system. Where what's it called again?
Well, we use a script called Randy.
The Randy script
randomize
to randomize our movies.
And yes, it randomizes the collection of movies that we've got and gives us a random selection, so neither of us are biased, and we can go in with a completely blank mind frame. So, Martin,
Right.
would you like to do the honors of pressing the button?
Yeah, okay, bro.
Come over here. Big countdown. All you have to do is just click.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2,
It's exciting.
1. The film that we are watching is
Grave of the Fireflies. Studio Ghibli.
1988.
1988,
So
boys and girls.
find yourself a copy of Grave of the Fireflies. Get yourself something nice to eat and possibly a beverage,
That's right.
an easy chair.
Mm-hmm.
Tuck yourself in.
And hit the bongos.
We're coming for you.
It's not that deep, bro. It's not that
Busting on through to the other side.
That's right.
Here we are.
It's your boys.
Martin and Ølund on the other side of Grave of the Fireflies.
Go on, Ølund. I want to hear your opinion on this. Obviously, I've seen this halfway through, and I feel like I want to know what you think of it, basically.
So, well, the film was about a young boy who has a young sister, and it's set in wartime Japan in the 1940s. And in the small village that he lives in, there's bombing raids going on.
What war is that?
It's World War II.
World War II.
Yeah, I believe so. Germans were sided with the Japanese.
No, that was the Americans.
The Germans were sided with the Japanese on the same team.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then Americans came in to help the Allied side, so England and whatnot, and they dropped the nuke on Japan.
Yeah.
And there was Pearl Harbor, and it's a whole thing. But this boy is basically at all odds trying to look after and cling on to his family.
Just as much as he can.
One of the first things that happens in the film is you find out his mother has been brutally injured in one of these bombing raids, and his father is actually out fighting the war, and he has to. I mean, it's real fast paced. There is emotional build up to some stuff that happens in this film, but at the same time, it's just slapping you around the face with some very real life events.
Oh
one
yeah,
after the
straight
other.
up, straight up.
So
Even from the beginning,
His mum's brutally
like, straight
injured,
away.
and his mother's brutally injured, and then there's no beating around the bush. She's dead the next day, and she's being cremated, and then he has to go and tell his sister.
But he doesn't want to.
No, he doesn't want to,
and he doesn't actually.
They're living in wherever they can. The first place they find accommodation is one of the local.
No, he's his auntie.
Oh yeah. She's an actual relative, the auntie.
Yeah.
I
From his
forget-
dad's side.
I forget that she was an auntie because of how
Rude she was.
well, resentful she ends up
Yeah.
becoming of them staying there because her, is it her husband or her son is fighting in the war?
No, he's just a lodger. She says it.
Oh, it's just a lodger.
Yeah.
God, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Of blood.
And a daughter. She's
And
like...
there's a daughter there too. But the stress, you can tell that the stress on the overall community due to
The war.
war.
Effort. Yeah.
food is being rationed, supplies aren't in as high demand as they once were, and everyone is slightly stressed and at each other's throats.
Yeah.
And
Which is understandable, but at the same time, it's like, it's blood, the two kids. When you were that age, you would think, oh, that's how I was. Maybe I should guide them in the right path instead of just fucking putting them down all the time and just caring about yourself, especially when you're a relative.
yeah, and
Like,
I don't know if it's almost a comment. Sometimes life's too real to deal with, and people can't handle it, and it's easier just to be a dick
yeah.
than to actually handle what's going on. So, but the fact that this whole film plays out from the point of view of this young boy, he can't be more than 16.
He can't, yeah,
He's got to be like 12.
Be.
He's got to be 4. Well, you see him with his sister when she was a lot younger, or just younger. They take a family photo.
Yeah,
And he's slightly
yeah.
smaller.
Yeah.
So in that, I say he was 7, 8, 9 there, and then in the film he's 14, 15.
Yeah. Something like that.
Something like that. But nevertheless, you know, it's an interesting conversation. Dave Chappelle's got a good joke where he basically says, as a society, we've got to work out how old 16 is because different people from different backgrounds at age 16 can comprehend a lot more than others, depending on. So, the point being that if you have experienced a lot of real slices of life, intense situations by the time you've reached age 16, you can be relatively mature.
Yeah.
You know, mentally. Yeah. Whereas if you are mollycoddled and raised in a loving situation with little threats coming to you, then you can be a child still at 16. So age isn't always the best barometer for measuring whether someone is like a child or like responsibility. It's a real wide branching conversation.
Yeah. I mean, he gets through. You have to think about like that point that in the film when he stays at his auntie, they treat him like shit basically, and
resentment grows because he's not actually contributing to the war effort like
that's
everyone
right,
else in the community is trying to. He's just trying to look after his family, or even find out what's happening to his family, because his father's not writing him back, and he knows his mother's dead, and then he's got to look after his sister. So with all that going on, to have someone breathing down your neck about guilting you over not being part of the war effort, it's quite anxiety-inducing just comprehending what the boy's having to deal with.
That's right, yeah. So there's halfway through the film, there's a farmer telling them that, oh, they can't give him food. What you're going to have to do is swallow your pride and go back to that house. At the same time that I wouldn't want them to be in that house, I feel like you just gotta like swallow that pride and do everything you possibly can to be,
Alive.
to like survive. That is your instinct. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's just such a build up to him being like having a life of freedom that it ultimately just like backfires.
There was some interesting points when there was a moment when they were in. So after leaving the house, the aunt's house, they end up living in a sort of cave.
Yeah, a shelter.
Yeah,
per
a
se.
shelter of sorts. It's like an underground. It's like a room, 2 rooms that have been dug out of a hillside, and there's a bit where they've trapped a load of fireflies inside to maintain light, and I guess he starts dreaming kind of about a naval parade that he went on with his father
Before she was born.
before his sister was born, and he sits up and kind of wakes up from that whole dream by getting a bit too excited about the whole dream or vision, or reminiscing in this memory that he's in, and he's kind of firing a gun, and this leads me to believe that he would want to follow in his father's footsteps, and some of this is like him feeling guilty about not being a real man and not following in his father's foot. There's a war going on. He's got women telling him you should be fighting the war effort, and his dad is fighting the war, and then
Instead you're here
doing this. So the whole swallowing the pride thing, that it's underplayed really in the film. Like, it's not something that, but the story is really that young man having to like grapple with being a child and like reacting emotionally to things that are happening, but then at the same time having to be like, oh, I've got my sister to look after, and that's forcing him to be an adult at the same time as him being a child.
Yeah.
So it's a real interesting I've really enjoyed it just for that, because it was I teared up like a couple of times watching that. Cause
I told you weren't ready for this.
We were going in.
I knew it for like a fact
because it was
that you
Ghibli.
weren't ready.
Before we watched
you weren't
this
ready
film,
for this.
When it got randomly selected, I was saying to Martin, "Oh, this is going to be." After the past few films we've watched, Goodfellas, Gods of Egypt, that's all been quite intense stuff, and I was quite excited to see Studio Ghibli come up, because I've seen Howl's Moving Castle, I've seen Spirited Away, and there's dark moments in those films, but they're ultimately they make me feel whimsical and
they
like a fairy
end
tale.
Sort of on a happy note. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, whereas this, I couldn't believe how hard it went for a Ghibli.
I've
not
oh
seen much
my
Studio
goodness.
Ghibli, so I'm probably talking out of turn, but there's a Pixar feel with their stuff compared to like your Neon Gen, like Evangelion or something like that. They go like hard in Evangelion. Sometimes with, like some of the sexual stuff and whatnot. Whereas I'd never expect that from a Ghibli film, but this really touched on a lot of really real human emotions, and didn't shy away. I mean, fuck. With the new format, we hope you've all watched the film, but he cremates his sister at the end of the film, man.
Yeah. I mean,
which is
that's when it really comes down to how strong your will is. Because obviously, at the start of the film, for a fact he's already dead, because he explains it, right?
There's
he
an
says
interesting bit when when you said that, it just reminded me of one of the first shots when there's an air raid happening and they firebomb the place, and he's looking around at all the bits of fire on the floor and stuff like that, and the buildings that are burning, and there's a bit where he looks at like a mop and a bucket and this big thing of water, and he's like contemplating putting the fire out. But he doesn't, and he runs. And that's one of the first shots, and then one of the last scenes of the whole thing is him lighting the fire to cremate his sister.
Yeah.
So that's like, kind of symbolic of him finally taking action, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that is unprecedented to have a scene like that. To have a... Oh, it's bleak talking about it, but like to have a child corpse in a film, in an animated film. I don't think I can think... I don't know if I've seen that.
I mean, I've seen. Oh my god, I've seen so much carnage in some animes, and it's even worse. There's fucking is it Van Helsing?
Well, it's in The Vampire Killer.
No. It's to do with like Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in some of them scenes, they're just like vampires eating babies, actual babies.
Yeah, but
you know
vampires
what I
aren't real.
mean? No.
So
Of course
film,
not. No.
This film...
As it? Oh, do you mean it like in this film being so?
Because I just said that Ghibli gives off that Pixar feel.
Yeah.
And this film still did, like saying that it was dark. It was dark at points, but it's still 100 because of all the human moments in it and the emotion. That is how it's similar to a Pixar film. There's these emotional moments that manage to cut to you. It's like, no, you've seen This Is the End. With Seth Rogen and all that. There's a bit where Emma Watson and I think it's Mindy Kaling are making fun of Jay Baruchel because he doesn't like Forrest Gump. There's a kind of a vibe out there that like emotion. It's not cool to like let emotion in and feel. But I love a Pixar film because they do. I think it's bullshit if somebody says that a film like Inside Out or something doesn't resonate with you in some way as a human, because it's, even if you didn't like the plot of the film or whatever, there's just moments in those Pixar films that manage to capture slices of real life that everyone has experienced, whether they want to get nostalgic about it or not, sort of thing. And this very much had all of that, which is why the fact that it wasn't whimsical or fairy tale like, or but it was grounded firmly in reality. Everything in this film could happen. Like in real life.
Everything in this film, I'm pretty sure it already happened. Like as in the war,
100%.
this definitely already happened.
So that's what I mean. It's an accurate portrayal of something that could have 100% happened in World War II.
Yeah.
And that makes it extra emotional. That adds a whole lot of like weight to the whole thing, because I love Spirited Away, and you know how I love getting fantastical and getting into fiction and stuff like that. But if you can ground something in reality and really make it emotionally tangible, then in my eyes that's like it did what it set out to do. So that's a thumbs up from me.
I mean,
you know?
I in a way, I really like this film.
I was going to say, because you watch what did you think? Because you watch a lot of anime as it is, and I know that Ghibli isn't your go-to
for like films and stuff. No, it's like a lot of the people say that you need to be watching a Studio Ghibli film to be like an anime fan, but you don't really need to.
They're like the gateway in my eyes.
You think so?
Well, they're like the most popular anime thing out, other than like Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh! And
yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily, to me, think that they're. I mean, they're the most popular, yeah, but I don't.
That one got.
I don't generally like them just because of how popular they are. It's all like how they make me feel.
Yeah, one played on the BBC. It was in between Christmas and New Year's. You know those days?
Yeah.
And there's loads of stuff on the TV. When I was younger, Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, I've watched Howl's Moving Castle.
And that...
Again...
I thought that was great, just because it it's dubbed, and it's got, I think it's Christian Bale playing the flame dude in that film, and it's all done with American actors, and the dub's crazy. So that's why it's like the first thing that you hear of, like in the anime world, because it has been handled by the Western entertainment industry. So it's just more available to people. Whereas like you don't learn about One Piece unless you like look into the history of anime and stuff like that.
But to be honest, this is probably my second Studio Ghibli film that I've watched.
So Howl's and this.
And this, yeah. So the same as you.
I've seen Spirited Away.
Yeah, and you've seen Spirited Away. But
I
they've both made me feel like, this one made me feel really sad, just because of like the whole story. You already know from the beginning that the guy's dead. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I knew his dad was dead for a long time.
Yeah, and you already know that like wherever this film ends, it's in death, right? So like I know that it's sad, so like it's made me feel already sad, and
it's kind of about carrying on in that like.
But
and him coming to terms with it as well.
As well as Howl's Moving Castle was more like, I wouldn't say cheery, but it was a lot more. It was a lot happier than this one was.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's fantastical. Howl's Moving Castle. It makes you. There's all these.
So maybe
the actual moving castles. It makes you feel like you're in a fairy tale.
So maybe I should get into Studio Ghibli films, because they make me feel like what the film is portraying. Do you know what I mean? So like
they do their job.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, I see some animes where they're like, it's just dumb, and they just don't make me feel anything other than like, okay, that happened. Cool.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? And every time that happens, and then I'm like, no, I just won't watch it because it won't interest me.
I caught quite a bit of bad anime growing up, to be fair. Like Digimon, big on that when that came out.
I mean, it's not bad.
Well, it's I watched it enough to go all the way up and watch the film, and like I was that into it.
Because they're still going on now.
It is still going on now. And then I used to watch Beyblade, the anime series of that. Yeah. And I followed Pokemon
quite intensively for a bit.
I think probably up to like the 4th movie. I fell off after Gen 3, Sapphire, Ruby, Emerald. But they gave me like my foundation in anime. Like a lot of the stuff you see in anime, the tropes of it are in like an average Pokemon episode.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of Pokemon episodes that are just straight up like bad. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, there's anime that's like people that aren't into anime, if you're watching this and anime, you just as a whole, anime is just not your thing. The way that I like to look at it, and it's helpful to look at it, it's just Eastern television. Like it's just Japanese or Chinese television, and
they're like cartoons for children.
But I think it's even wider than that out there, isn't it? Because a lot of adults watch it. So it's like you've got so many TV shows in the West, like your Friends and your Big Bang Theories, 2.5 Men. And treat it like that. There's some like,
but you got the cartoon side. Remember, like Tom and Jerry, fucking
but they're in the
Dexter's
West
Laboratory. So they're like,
there's definitely something in the West about a cartoon being for a kid. Obviously, we're coming out of that way more and more these days.
Because it's not just for kids, because obviously a lot of adults watch them as well.
Yeah, well, that's like straight out the 90s and the noughties, really, with the rise of shows like Family Guy, The Simpsons, South Park. They all, Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, bar some awful racial stereotyping that is a product of the time that those things came out, were intended for children, and like they're set up as such. Like you can tell they're completely made for children. Whereas the late 80s and the 90s and the noughties saw all these shows that were animated, but they were for like kids that grew up watching cartoons that wanted to keep on watching cartoons as they got older, so the humor gets more adult. But then I remember growing up, people telling me, like, why are you watching cartoons? You know, you get to a certain age and they're like, why are you watching cartoons?
Yeah, they say, oh, you're a child, you need to be this, and then you need to be this,
But
and you
I
need to be
think-
this. I'm like, you need to be going to the pub and going drinking and doing all this shit. And you're like, well, you do what you want
I
to
get to
enjoy.
age 60 and you're still not going to be able to convince me that the first 3 series of SpongeBob SquarePants aren't well written.
It doesn't matter
Just
whether
'cause
they're
it's-
well. It doesn't matter whether they're well written or not. If you enjoy them, that's it. You enjoy them.
Well,
You can't let anybody else tell you, be like, oh, you after you turn 18, you have to hate everything you've loved before. I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I just don't care how it's presented to me. If it's written well and it does what it's set out to do,
Yeah.
then I don't care if it's drawn in chalk. I don't care if it's a movie. I don't care if it's a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
The way that it comes to me doesn't affect my enjoyment of it unless somehow that's part of the experience. But then that'd be, part of it sort of thing. If I'm thinking about a crazy art experiment now where you make a song that's barely audible or something like that, and that's part of the way that you deliver the art to the audience.
What do you mean?
Just this whole conversation has got me thinking about how important it is that the art makes it to the audience in a smooth way. So, like, just the fact that something's a cartoon can turn somebody off. They're like, oh, I just don't do animation.
Yeah.
And it's
that's something I don't get. Like, but well,
it's
those
gotta come
people
from inside.
I mean, those people are more like ignorant to the fact that they don't see
I think that's-
art the same way. Like, as
They're
in,
scared of feeling like a kid.
yeah,
I think.
yeah. But they're also like, they just don't care what that artist is trying to say. Because if that artist was trying to like say something meaningful in an animation compared to like it happening in like with real people, it doesn't matter.
However
As
you
long
want
as-
to deliver
yeah.
it, it's and the
As long as the message is the same and it's a message that is good for everyone, then it doesn't matter. But then there's some people that are out there, like I said, ignorant to like, oh no, it's animation, I can't watch it. Fuck that. That's a kid's thing to watch.
yeah. So that is. So just from reading a lot about a lot of the artists that I enjoy, be it film directors or musicians or whatever, sometimes the way, like, what the final product's going to be appears late into developing the idea. So, like, you have an idea for something. You don't know if it's going to be a film or a television show or an animation or a song or whatever it may be. And sometimes that doesn't... you don't know what it's going to be for quite a time, but you flesh out the idea, and you know what I mean? It's this living thing for a while before you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a film, or this is going to be this, it could just be a drawing, or however you want to translate that idea. But I guess people that aren't like the audience don't spend a lot of time thinking about that because they just get the product. And they may not want to go back and pick apart how and why an artist ended up making an animation like that. But there's always like South Park. If you really look into South Park, it's actually really interesting why it looks like it looks. It's because they couldn't afford at the time to do proper animation, hand-drawn stuff like Disney. So they literally just went and bought a load of coloured paper.
Fucking did it themselves.
And although South Park is now all animated on computers, it's based upon those original coloured paper assets that Trey and Matt used all those years ago. So sometimes it's just circumstance as to why something looks a certain way. The message inside, it doesn't mean the message inside should be overlooked. And if a film is as good as Grave of the Fireflies, it would be a real shame if like a message like that got overlooked. You know, just
because
if someone didn't watch this film, just because.
I think,
it's
and don't
animation.
quote me on this. I think there's a live action version of this.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
I think so, but don't quote me on this.
To be fair, it's a really like compelling story.
Yeah.
I could completely imagine there being a some sort of remake or something like that because it's a very human story.
But let's look it up. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, you're correct, Martin.
I thought so. I saw something.
So there was a planned follow-up that was going to be straight up done by the same people that made this one, animated. But due to the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, it actually got cancelled. Public opinion in Japan had turned against China, and Ghibli's distributor felt a film partly set there was too risky.
So they didn't do it.
Yeah, so they didn't do the planned sequel, and then in 2005 there was a television live action remake made to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the end of World War II.
I thought so. I pretty sure. Wait, 2005.
Yeah,
That's when they made it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There may have been more versions of this film made. I'm just looking at this one now. Yeah, and then in 2008, there was a different live-action version made as well. So a couple of versions. This is, we've not really mentioned it. Came out in 1988, which is hella early for like, you know, this style, this level of animation being around in. Well, you've got like Disney films and stuff like that, but I feel like Studio Ghibli were really pushing forward in bringing Japanese animation to the Western world, and this is their second film, so it's an early foray into that, and I thought it looked great, man.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be. Well, we should watch the live version to see how they would play everything out, because obviously in some of the scenes would be tricky to do it as a live.
I did just have a look on the Wikipedia of one of the live action ones, the first one, the 2005 one, and apparently it strays from the original a bit.
Right. Okay.
Didn't kind of say how, but it would be interesting to see because a lot of those scenes there was a lot of. I was thinking about the age of this film watching it because it's significant. How many years? 12 plus 21, 32, 33 years ago this film came out.
33 years ago, yeah.
Which is quite a long time. A lot has happened since 1988.
Yeah, quite a lot, yeah. But I wanted to ask you,
we'll go on.
What made you pick this film? Obviously, if you're a listener, we picked these films from a whole library that Ølund has prepared for both of us.
Yeah, 2,000. It's over 2,000 films
Right.
wide at this point. So
every film that you have has a meaning behind it.
well, there's a reason. There was a reason why all the films on the list piqued my interest, and my criteria for putting films on that list is rather broad. I like to keep it broad. The original intention of the list was to create, to grab every film that I ever thought would be interesting, that would further my knowledge and interest of the entertainment industry, I suppose.
So what? Every film
So for example, Jim Carrey was in a film called Rubber Face quite a few years before he was famous that was only shown on television once. That film would make the list because it's an early example of Jim Carrey, who in my opinion is a...
So did you pick this film because...
he's a method madman. That's interesting to me. But then, you know, there's not many films set in Egypt, so... a film set in Egypt might make it onto the list for that reason. There's many different reasons why a film might make it onto the list.
Right. This was Studio Ghibli's second film, so was that maybe a reason why you picked it?
So there's a few reasons that I can think of as to why this film would have initially made the list. One of them being this film is pretty highly held just in general, like across.
Yeah. I was actually told to watch this film by a friend of mine, Claudia.
Oh yeah, I know Claudia.
Yeah. And when I watched half of it, but then didn't finish the end of it. But now that I've actually finished watching the film, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so
breaks my heart.
It's generally held and in critical acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a good reason why it's on the list. It is Studio Ghibli's second film, and I think possibly every Studio Ghibli film is on the list. Possibly.
So we're gonna be having a fun time reviewing all of them.
Yeah, at some point you'll see all the Ghibli films come up here, and then third of all, I think I did read a brief synopsis, and any film that can show the vast emotional palette that war brings about will probably make the list, because it just is a.
What did it say? What did the synopsis say?
See, I couldn't tell. The list began. I started making the list like 3-4 years ago.
Right.
But I imagine the synopsis would say like a young boy and his sister
battle
through World War II in Japan or something like that.
Right,
but
okay.
Looking at the high rating, the setting, Studio Ghibli and their capacity for making an emotional film.
All pulling together,
I was like, well, this has just got to go on.
Yeah, I mean,
go on the list, man.
And I'm glad idea.
I'm glad it did.
Me too.
Because
it was a from the beginning. I just knew it was like gonna like hit home. It's gonna hit hard, just because I know that it wasn't like a roller coaster of emotion. It was sad all the time. Do you know what I mean? Although they were like, you could see them playing around and like trying to be happy about it. You know that the ending of this is gonna be hard, like hard hitting, and it was.
In the hardest times, humor's often reverted to, as the last bastion of actually comprehending what's happening. It's easier just to tell a joke or to be silly, than to and that's something that I've learned fairly recently, that humor is the last defense of the scared man.
You could see it near the end of the film. He just starts laughing, doesn't it?
Yeah, because
just before his sister dies, and he's coming in with like all this stuff or whatever.
He does that manic laugh. Actually, it's a bit crazy, isn't it? There's a few kind of surreal scenes in this as well, where you're kind of like, why did that just happen? Just little scenes that are out of whack like that, and I think I love how underplayed the his mental health is, because you do see him and his sister start to break down, but at no point is it drastic. It's never like, oh fuck, like they're dying. Yeah. But it is in your head, as the audience it is.
Yeah.
But to those two, because he's the only one in charge and he's the child and you're seeing it from his perspective, if an adult had come into that situation, although they go to the doctors and stuff like that, so it is kind of a sign of the times that they're living in, the 1940s, and it being tough, they goes to the doctor, he's like, how am I supposed to get food for her? And he just gets pushed out the office. So it is kind of a sign of where society was at back then, a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately, all you've got is humor. When life's that bad, you actually can't comprehend how bad it is, so you force yourself to laugh.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm starting to think it's just a survival mechanism in humans, laughter. Maybe it's like an actual insanity, a madness. Animals don't laugh.
Like I was saying, like you have to have the strongest will to survive that whole situation. He had enough food to last him enough time to get a job or to try to do something else to make him like survive. But he decided that all is lost now, and he just goes to a train station and just sits there and dies. And you could
Oh my God, Martin.
What?
I forgot about the beginning of the
Yeah,
film.
that is the beginning of the fucking film. How do you forget that?
He died.
He says it at the start of the film.
Oh God.
What do you think I've been saying the whole time? What do you?
I was comprehending like all the other deaths, and then he dies. Oh,
thing.
God.
That's the moment. The moment his sister died is when he died inside. He's done. That was it. He could have survived that, but instead he decided, I'm done.
You know, this has really thrown me for six because now I don't know like what the film was trying to say. Like, how is there a good resolution out of this film?
There isn't. Where's the it's just
like,
a sad film. I told
like,
you ain't ready. I said this to you and you're now realizing what is fucking going on.
That was mad.
What do you
All those pieces
my goodness.
falling into place. Jesus Christ. Man.
Now you know. The guy he gave up, basically. And it's not like I don't fault him at all, because exactly at that moment, your will needs to be fucking iron solid to say, I'm gonna survive this.
So ultimately, it's a comment on war.
Yeah.
And society.
And what happens in war.
Yeah.
War's not good.
It's not about, like Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket. Like, it's not about the war. It's about, like, the effects of war.
Yeah.
On people and humans and society. And it's kind of about death. But life.
From the beginning, What do you think all the moments of him and her walking around, loads of fireflies around them? That's just him seeing his life flash before his eyes before he dies.
God, it's brutal.
I know.
I understand.
It hits deep, bro.
I feel like Ghibli got like really changed tones over the years.
Yeah,
that's like going hard. Like that's like a.
But again,
that has made it's a 5-star film, man.
It's a good film. I know it's a good film. That's why I was saying, like, how are they gonna do the live action version of this? Like, how would they replicate loads of this stuff? I mean, it was 2005. They could CGI.
That got me like that was like a traditional movie twist. Like, he was dead the whole time. Like, it all pinged in my head. I was like, oh no.
Like, it's just telling you the story of how he died.
How the hell do you wake up dead?
How do you wake up dead? But this is why, like, when he cremated his sister, and then he said, I'll put some of her ashes in this tub.
In the fruit
drop tub.
Yeah.
And then at the start of the film, you see the guy throwing it outside.
Oh, who? A train station attendee?
Yeah, I don't know, a policeman or somebody who's.
He says this one's gone.
Yeah.
You can tell you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when they're gone. But I'm not sure. Maybe a janitor, something. I don't know, something like that. But he he put he spills it out, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?"
Oh, the
and
ashes.
and then the guy's like, "Oh, don't worry about that. Just throw it all out." But then you know what that is once he
By the
says
end.
that. Yeah,
At the beginning, when they first moved into the aunt's house, he had that little wooden box. That was his mum's ashes.
yeah,
Oh, okay. And then they just get moved to where the grave is. Where he tells her there's a grave.
yeah. And then you see that he takes the ashes somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And he obviously when he tells her that, oh, she's by this tree, it's because he buried it there.
Yeah, that's a real emotionally heavy film.
He was dead the whole time.
I love it when that happens. That's like if I could experience, if every film could make me do that, then it would be incredible. You know.
I mean, there is a film that we've been told to watch already, and it has sort of the same feel, but I'm not sure because I haven't
By
seen
who?
it either. Brogan,
Which film was that?
Your Name.
Oh yeah,
I've been
that's
told
another
to-
anime film. That's
Yeah.
it's on the list, man.
Yeah, I've been told by a good friend of mine, Aaron, that to watch that, and at first
Chippy Chapman.
yeah, Mr. Chippy.
Mr. Chippy.
Yeah, he told me to watch it, and I've been trying to watch it, but then it released on Netflix. It's on Netflix. But I haven't watched it because we're gonna watch it.
Well, if the old
Here.
Randomo 4000 ends up choosing it, then we'll
Yeah, we'll watch it.
it will fall like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. They say it's a twist. We haven't seen it, so we'll be ready for it.
I just hope that the next film is like, I'm begging for something light-hearted. I need a break.
Oh my goodness! Hey, look.
It'll be Sallow or some
If
shit.
luck is on our side, that'll be the next film.
We'll see. But until then,
It's not that deep.
it's
bro.
episode 27. We're wrapping this up.
That's right. We've gone through a lot of emotion today, mainly sad emotion, confused.
I feel like instead of saying Studio Ghibli, I should probably just shout out that this film was directed by Isao Takahata. Isao Takahata.
If he butchered that name,
I apologize.
he apologizes.
And
I
Martin-
apologize for his behavior.
Apologizes for me. But I feel like I'd rather attempt to mention it than not mention it at all and just keep saying Studio Ghibli because, you know, I wish I could name every person in the credits, Martin.
I mean, that'll take you quite a long
That'd
time.
be a whole other podcast in itself.
That'll be another thing.
But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it dearly.
Yep. You know it's your boy.
Hopefully, they'll, you'll have a little less time to sit around and listen to me and Martin talk absolute waffle. But until that point, you can find us every Wednesday at all of the appropriate outlets, social outlets.
Hey, you better keep your social distance.
And head over to our social media.
On Instagram at MIP Ltd. You could also go to our website, mipltd.org, and check out all our videos and everything we're doing.
On the YouTube, and then the Mystery School at Reddit. If you're into talking about everything weird that's going on in this world. Closing thoughts, Martin?
I'm sad, bro. This film's made me hit a spot. What about you?
I think I'm going to leave the people with a positive note. Please find it inside of you to love yourself.
Good message.
Peace.
Peace.
When you ferry around, it sells the best in me. When they sleep in